welcome this evening to everyone. As you've just seen a minute ago, our podcast that we run, we thought it'd be a good idea, considering the majority of people are at home, to just offer an alternative. It's great to see so many people this evening, so thank you very much. Podcast live, so it's a live chat, which obviously that's why you're here. And some of you who've listened to our podcast already, is episode 3 1 was with Mick Lewin, and we've managed to get Mick again. So Mick's FA affiliate tutor, delivers ones and twos, and yeah, hello Mick. I'll say hello to everybody.
Hello, how are you? You all right? Looking forward to the podcast, Mick the sequel. Very good, thank you very much.
Just a little bit of stuff. Everyone will be on mute, apart from the presenters, just so there's no interference or talking over each other kind of thing. At the end, there's an opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A without. So if you do have any questions, there's this chat option, which you'll see at the top there. Pop that as you go, and I'll keep back on and go back. Or there's a raise your hand option as well under your name. So you can just raise your hand and then we can ask a question. And also, just those meetings will be recorded just to share on YouTube as we go. So let's go to the next slide. Here we go. And I'm going to take off the slide and so you can see each other a bit better. So there you go. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you back. So you enjoyed your first time so good you thought you'd have a sequel.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, I think it's more a give the people what they want sort of scenario.
Should we start? Should we begin?
Yeah. Just warm welcome to everyone listening in or watching. And just a big thank you for your support on the podcast, because this is something we had an idea going back a couple of years now, and we wouldn't have dreamt that it would have kind of travelled as much as it has done. So thanks to everyone. And look, it's a brief bit of respite, if you like, in these sort of unprecedented times that we're having currently. So it's good to get the coaching fraternity to talk about football, talk about some football coaching. We've got, I think, probably 10 questions between myself and Rich that we'll share with Mick. And as Rich said, we'll get some of your feedback hopefully towards the end. So very warm welcome to everyone. We've got some friends of mine that are listening in from Boston, Massachusetts, and from Westchester, which is near Philadelphia as well. So warm welcome to them. So yeah, let's crack on there, Mick. The first question of 10 I've got here, we want to talk about game-related practices. Something that I caught the sort of tail end of a discussion that you were having on social media. It's something that we sort of talk about on the courses now, and it's something that's probably in the last sort of couple of decades. But what's your take on it? What's your opinion of game-related practices?
So I'm a big advocate of game-related practices. I find that they are very, very engaging for kids. Probably that would be the most important thing, probably the most important aspect that I've taken on board with it. Very different, I think you'll agree, Revo, to the sort of things we used to do back in the day, as it were, I suppose. Trying to avoid things like lines, kids getting bored, kids mucking about. In terms of engagement, I really think the practices are really good. Having said that, and I think one of the reasons I wanted to speak about it on the podcast was wanted to make sure that there wasn't any confusion between, and we spoke about it yesterday, let the game be the teacher, and just sort of stand back, set up a game and watch it, compared to putting on a game-related practice, a games-based session, where you can still intervene and coach and help improve the players. Was something that I was quite passionate about talking about, really. I don't know, I'll throw it back to you as well, Rivo. What's your take on game-related practice at the moment and your experiences of the courses? I know that I've seen people design and put on some really, really good stuff, but then not necessarily go back and coach the individuals in the session.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's sort of popularised now in the last sort of 20 years or so. I mean, games-based, you've got things like TGFU, which is teaching games for understanding, Game Sense, which is more of a sort of Australian approach to things. But I think in the main, and you're right, what you alluded to there, Nick, sometimes I go out and I observe coaches who, you know, there's this thing from the youth modules and let the game be the teacher, where it's right, I can stand back now and just let them play. But I think the point you were making was, you know what, we still need to intervene somehow. So I think it's the art of questioning as well, in that the type of questions that you throw into the individuals are crucial when you're talking about a games-based approach. It's getting the game right so that the learner can benefit most from it, making sure you put on the right game so the learner can get the most out of it. Trusting that game to be the focus of your session. And I say that because, and I've said it on many a podcast now, but the external factors of people behind us can be quite off-putting at times. And it may look, depending on how you set the practice up, that it is just a game. But for me, look, when you, Mick, myself, Rich, anyone listening would have turned up to a football session, I can guarantee one of the first questions that we would ask the coaches when we play the game. And historically, it was that last 5 or 10, 15, 20 minutes, if you're lucky, at the end of a session. So for me, we've got to spend more time in those random situations, and the game's random. But, you know, we've got to get the questioning right, and we've got to set up the practice right so we can extract what we want from it.
I think also, it's really, really good points. I think that the other thing is making sure that your observational skills are there within it. So it's for you as a coach to observe and watch and try to work out what those players in front of you need at that time. You're going to have your focus, you're going to have your topic, your game is made up, whichever way it is. It could be as simple as channels down the outside of a pitch, working on wide play or whatever it is. But it's then for you to observe that and to try and make sure that the players within it that are working within your constraints or whatever it is that you've put on it, you can then notice when players need help. Flip of it as well is that when someone's doing really, really well at it, stopping it and almost re-coaching a good example so everyone can see exactly what you are trying to get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at this question earlier and I wrote down some positives and negatives, if you like. But positives far outweigh. So I've got things like promotes cognition, motor development, social learning, to stand back and work with an individual. So in terms of interventions, like as you were saying, we do need to brush up on observational skills, but it allows us just to stand back a little bit rather than being immersed in the middle of a practice. I think it allows for creativity. It creates a positive learning environment, improves decision making. You spend more time in random. So as we said before, games are random. The game is random. The game on a Saturday or Sunday is random. So I think for me, we'd have to try and maximise opportunities in those practices. And hopefully it creates a sense of fun. We all want to play games. We all want to play matches. It far outweighs the negatives for me. I think, I don't know about you, what you would have done, Mick, but I've got things like success rate would be lower. So whilst the decision-making raises, the success rate will be lower versus a constant practice where perhaps you could see success quicker and earlier on a more regular basis.
So I think I want to go back to something you said just a minute ago about the kids wanting to have fun. They want to play a game. I think one of the reasons for that is that it's competitive as well.
Yeah.
So often a constant, even a variable where there's a little element of chaos, but not necessarily what you're missing with those two elements of the practice spectrum is a score line probably. And as soon as you manage to get yourself into a game, there's something to play for, which gets the engagement of the kids and the buy-in of the kids immediately, and really helps drive the session. It helps drive a bit of a tempo to it and a pace to the session, because it's almost like there's something to play for within it.
Why is it that we play a game at the end, historically and traditionally in this country?
Why is it that we play a game at the end?
Why is it that I was the same at 8 years of age? The first thing I did, and my teammates would say when we play a game, you'll play a game at the end if you're good, is what they said. I don't know what the answer is. Is it learnt behaviours? I don't know. But, I mean, whilst you're thinking of that, the skills program work that we did with 5 to 11-year-olds, and we started to talk about whole part whole, come in, play 1v1s, 2v1s, where there's overloads and underloads. You're getting that in early, breaking away, doing your practice, whatever that consists of, and then returning to the game.
Yeah.
But that was a new concept for me at the time. Straight away. Mm-hmm. But I'm guessing you had the same experience as a young player, but I wonder where it stems from.
I don't really know. And also, a lot of the time when you do introduce game-related practice on a level 1, there are always people in the room that seem quite apprehensive about the whole thing to start with, where it flips it on its head, and that sort of element of like, ooh, haven't we got to do some drills first? You know, like where are the drills? If we're playing games, where are the drills, sort of thing. And I think it's just historical, isn't it? It's something that we always used to. I remember football training when I was younger. It was always in a line, waiting your go, and the game was at the end. It's almost like the coach as well at that point, you know, sort of steps away, might chat with their assistant or a parent or something like that. Oh, they're in a game now, just let them play, sort of thing.
Yeah, my work's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, you still get so much done within that point, within that period of time.
It's interesting, chaps, because I looked after a session for a local grassroots team under 6s a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking after because the main coaches all there, my children play in that session, and then I thought, arrival activity, we'll go straight into the game, like just hand out bits as they go, and they're like, oh, like they just couldn't like understand why they were doing that, and thought, oh no, we're not going to play a game at the end. It's just interesting to see that all being having that thought.
They'll have the same thoughts if that's all they've been exposed to as well. So if it was something completely new that you've done, Rich, then you know they'll have the same opinion. Whoa, what we've been. The company I work for, our arrival activities are more often than not. The kids come in, they get themselves bibbed up, they get themselves into a game. They might have a little challenge on the whiteboard as well that will hopefully link to the topic. You know, it'll normally be a 3-point goal somehow or something. So if you, again, going back to the example of wide play, maybe kids as they arrive, whiteboards up, they know that we're going to be doing wide play, and in a game until everyone arrives, if you can score from across, it's worth 3, that sort of thing, and that would be that. But I suppose it depends, because those kids would probably find it quite weird when we don't do it, because we've been doing it like that for a couple of years now.
We can stay on this for ages, I'm sure, but I'm conscious of time, so let's move it on a little bit. So the next question I've got is topics that relate to the courses. So I recognise a lot of our viewers have a level 1 or level 2 courses. So I don't know if you've got anything on this, Mick, but I've got things like principles of play that comes up quite a lot on, throughout our courses really. And then practices, sessions, and kind of stuff. So I just want to talk about the principles of play, attacking and defending principles, and how important they are when we're piecing together a practice or a session.
In terms of thinking, and again, it's probably one of those things that people are relatively surprised about when they come on the course, because you say, try to stick in one phase. So is your session in possession? Is it out of possession? Or are you looking at the transition? Sometimes coaches try to coach everything all at the same time. So when we introduce those principles, I think that can be slight light bulb moments for the coaches. And when we have the coaches planning, which I always find one of the most valuable parts of the courses when they're planning their sessions, it's almost like look at a principle, which one at this point would you guys like to try and address, and almost start planning from that. So you've got 3 coaches. They're all there. They're all coaching an under 7, under 8, similar age groups. They're normally in those sorts of groups on the courses. Have a discussion. Have you got a similar problem to solve, as it were? Have you got a principle that you'd like to look at? Try and plan a session from there. I think what happens sometimes is that the technical components underneath it, that's where they struggle, because they often miss the principle and go straight to a technical component. So they'll say, "Oh, I'm doing passing," but what element of passing, whereabouts, what principle are you actually trying to get across?
Yeah, interesting. And then this thing about practices, sessions, and programs, you quite rightly said then about perhaps trying to cram too many practices into that hour session, and I was guilty myself as a novice coach of, right, I've got 1 hour, so I'm going to cram in shooting, passing, heading, defending. Why? I don't know. I just probably conscious of time, be conscious of the external factors in terms of parents behind, and wanting to make sure that the learner went home having learnt lots. Whereas now we're saying we really need to consolidate it. So what is the practice that you're looking at? It might be that you revisit those practices or that theme over a program, over a scheme of work, which might be 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. Yeah. Do you think there's value in that?
Yeah, we experimented with it again, syllabus in our academy sessions recently, where we had say again, we use the wide areas sort of thing. We had it would be attacking wide areas 1 week, and then the week after we would do defending wide areas. So you've hopefully got some good play in the wide areas, and then the week after you can talk about how you would go about stopping it. But within the first session, although you want them to try and defend as best they can, I wouldn't try and alter. I wouldn't coach the defenders at that point. And then even in the second week, you try and coach the attackers. You'd look at coaching the defenders how to defend the wide areas, sort of thing. So I think it's really, really important, because it's a focus for the whole thing. Rotate the players around in each session. Make sure that you've not just got you're not just even the half the group in a session. So some of them could walk away being like, well, I haven't really learned anything. Make sure everyone gets a go at it. So important to focus on one thing and try and improve that within the session. It goes back to, have you improved the players again? Have you worked on it? What are the key technical points that you want to try and impart on them? You can't do it all, did you? Can't do it all in one session.
No, and I think that's the misconception. Is you just got to try and narrow the focus, and you know what area in your light on, what do you want the individual to improve on. All right, Mick, thank you. Rich, I think you've got a question.
I do. Thanks, Riro. Yeah, Mick, I suppose what made you become a coach, and why? And yeah, just a bit more background.
My short answer really is that I'm not good enough to play the game and get paid.
What age did you take an interest?
I think I was sort of coachy even when I was quite young. So like brother down the park with neighbours and stuff like that. I was still probably quite annoyingly coachy at that point, where someone would do something and I would want them to try and do it better or anything like that. I think I always had it in me to be like that. And as soon as I went to university, which is where I did my level 1, I was asked to coach teams and stuff like that I was playing in. And it just sort of rolled on from there. But yeah, the fundamental answer is I'd have preferred to play, but wasn't good enough.
What position did you used to play?
Right midfield, number 7. Beckham wannabe. Oh, absolutely.
Where the fence?
Yeah, absolutely. No tracking back though. You wouldn't want to play right back with me playing right midfield.
Thank you. Who do you support?
I am a Portsmouth fan.
Interesting. And FA Cup win, over 10 years ago now? Was it about 12, 10, 11 years ago?
It was a great year. Same year I got married, 2008. Yeah. I think I was like bringing up that Portsmouth won a trophy more recently than Spurs. So-called big clubs. But yeah.
Well, sorry, go on.
No, go on, Rich.
I was just going to ask you, didn't you used to work down there?
So, yeah, I think so. I don't come. My mum and dad aren't like big football fans. I didn't come through a football family. I think my allegiance to Portsmouth came through going on family holidays down to Southsea, and then I ended up at that's where I went and saw a game there once whilst we were on holiday with Dad. And my uncle as well, actually, at the time, he was a big Chelsea fan. And then I went to uni there and got a job in the players' bar at Fratton Park, which was great because for 3 years I just turned up and watched all the games for free, which was great. At the time, it was the promotion year, so the year they went into the Premier League with the likes of Paul Merson, he was there, and then the two first years in the Premier League. So it's just great. It's brilliant experience. Great job for university. It was brilliant.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Good times. Over to you, Riro. Thanks, mate.
No problem.
What's your favourite course to deliver and why?
My favourite course to deliver is the level 2. The reason why is I feel like you are a real part of a coach's journey. The course is obviously spanned over a longer period of time. You revisit them in the 3 blocks. If they're all on the same blocks, you do your in situ visits with them. You develop a proper relationship with the people on the course, and I think that it really it's how the new courses come alive. There's lots of content that I really like on the level 2, but fundamentally the reason I prefer it, or it's my favourite, is just being a part of those coaching journeys, getting to know them as individuals, helping them from when they start on that first day to when you can eventually sign them off.
Because presumably, you would have done the old version of a level 2. So what would be the fundamental differences, in your opinion, from the old level 2 to the new one that you currently deliver?
I think one of the best bits about it is being able to go away from a block try to implement what you've learned on that block, and then you go back. So I would imagine, obviously, when I did it, you did a week or 5 days or whatever it was, back to back. My level 2 was actually a really, really good course that I enjoyed, delivered by Keith Styles. Great guy, great tutor. Really enjoyed it, but it would have been really nice to be a part of like a group, come back and see them after the couple of months in between blocks. These days as well, I think WhatsApp groups are so important on the courses for those guys to take a picture of a session, put it in there. Good practice, those sorts of things. And I know that a lot of the guys from the level 2s that I've delivered still in touch. There's a couple on the podcast tonight that I've done level 2s with and stuff. It just feels like there's a real heavy involvement when you get on it. It must be similar when you do a B license, like a real journey with the coaches.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. Yeah, and I think what you said then, it's very personalised, isn't it? Because you're going out to their environment. I would have loved that, someone coming out to my environment to watch me, because sometimes we coach on the course, but it might not be relevant to players and the environment that you're normally coaching in. And also, I think historically we would have been given a topic to coach. Yeah. And it's something that I've said before also, but you then, if you're anything like me, you become an expert at just that one thing, and you miss the whole holistic approach to that course. So I can still remember my coaching topics from level 2, from B license courses and A license courses, where you think, right, to pass this course, I just need to home in on this thing and be an expert at that. But unfortunately, I missed lots of other good stuff that was happening on the course. At least this way, there's no, us as tutors going out with the folders, clipboard, putting a ticker across in the box. It's us as a team working together.
Absolutely. Do you know what though? I still find how do you do an in-situ visit without a clipboard? I say to the guys when I'm with them, like, listen, I've got a clipboard. Apologies for it, sort of thing. I don't want to have, but I've tried. Have you ever done? I did a little dictaphone app on your phone.
Voice notes.
Yeah, that's the one. And I thought that's even more ridiculous. You can sort of sit on the side, talk to your phone, but no. So I still do the old-fashioned clipboard, but I talk through what I've written with the learners afterwards and stuff. Let them see what I've written. So it's not like not an assessment. It is supposed to be a support mechanism, isn't it?
Brilliant. Rich?
Cool. We touched on it earlier, Mick, but we'll go through it again. This is, in your opinion, how important is an arrival activity?
Vital, absolutely vital, and something that I only picked up later on in coaching. I've been coaching about 12 years. I've probably only been taking arrival activities seriously for the last 4 or 5 years. I think it sets the tone. I think in terms of your behaviour management, which I know comes up a bit later, it's such a vital thing for that, because when the kids arrive, it's a bit chaotic. The traditional English warm-up of booting the ball in the net as hard as you possibly can. And then you get that bit where, come on kids, in we come. They've already started losing focus a little bit. If as they arrive, you can almost hit them with something, take them by surprise straight away. Like you alluded to, Rich, with those under 6s that you just took on for a week. Almost probably half of that was, we don't normally do arrival activities. I didn't know that we were going to do something as soon as we turned up. But I normally go for either game, or if it was individual, a ball mastery challenge or task. As they get there, can you try this? I saw one recently that's really good, actually, on Twitter. Pete Sturgis did it, the stadium game. Have you seen that one?
No.
Very, really, really good. It's just players turn up and you've got a little 1v1 that goes on, but you say one half of the pitch is your stadium and one half of the pitch is your stadium. and they just have to do it and try and stay in their home stadium. So if you win the ball off them, then you've got to try and get into your half and keep it in there, and then go back and forth like that. That one works really, really well. There's lots of little challenges that you can do within that as well. But yeah, really good. It's another opportunity as well to give a bit of player ownership. You have stuff to do at the start of the session, don't you, as the coach? You're either setting up, you might have a parent talk to you or whatever. So if you set it up with the first couple that arrive and say to them, right, when the next lot get here, you need to explain to them what we're doing, then you've handed over a bit of ownership as well, haven't you?
That's nicely moved on to the next question. Thank you. Player ownership.
Yeah, that segues in nicely. So player ownership, we had a conversation yesterday. I think you asked me what my views on it were, and I think we've come to the conclusion that it depends, I suppose, doesn't it, of where you are, what environment you're in. So it's conceptual. There'd be times when I was playing in, I don't know, let's say non-league, where there was no time for free expression or player ownership, because it was almost my way of the highway. This is what we have to get 3 points, otherwise I'm out of a job and you're out of a job. Whereas if we're talking about grassroots level and the players that we coach, then for me, I think it's vital. I think, you use the word then about empowerment. I think it helps with motivation and self-esteem. It might even be things like, look in the kit bag and pick some pieces of equipment and go and set up your own little practice to warm up, be innovative. Free expression, creativity, I think it helps with all that. But I just remember, and I've said it before many a time, but that big bag of balls that was there on the side of the pitch that when I was 8 or 9, that you just couldn't go anywhere near it until everyone was there. Yeah. Why? And also, I think it incentivizes you to get there early. If I'm going to be able to get the footballs out, or play in the goal, or pick an activity to do, or play some 1v1s, then, you're going to get me there early. I know it's difficult for a lot of us coaches that perhaps, hire out goal centres and things like that, where it's physically impossible to get in before. But I've seen coaches that do something just outside whilst they're waiting. Little activities there. But for me, I think they're crucial, Mick. Player ownership is essential.
I think the other great thing about it is that it allows for players to learn for themselves. So in terms of tactical decisions, sometimes, especially in front of a group of kids, you're saying, we want you to do this, I want you to do this, I want you to play like this. Kids' favourite word is why, isn't it? My 2-year-old at the moment, that's a favourite word, why, for everything. So instead of it being like on your back as to why, you can hand over a little bit. I said to a group recently, a group of level 1 guys, I think it was, just let the team make decisions. I think they were talking about under 7s, under 8s. So they're going to play 5v5. That if I said let you come up with whatever you want, they'll all just want to be strikers. So what issue with that? Because hopefully it'll click with them quite quickly that they can't all just do that, because it's not going to work for them. So allow for them to work that out for themselves, effectively see the consequence of their own actions, develop responsibility, develop leadership. Who's going to be the first kid in that group that says, listen, someone needs to play defence, I'm going to drop back in here? Think of all the things you just learned about that 8-year-old when they've taken the responsibility to do that. Don't be scared of handing it over to the players and hopefully seeing who puts it all right, who leads, who's responsible for what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's that I say you do culture that I sort of grew up in, and you would have done also. Whereas we're just governed by what the coach says, and I think at that age, whatever the coach says, I'm going to agree with. As an 8-year-old, as a 9-year-old, you're the adult. I'm looking up to you literally, and if you take the run around the pitch 1,000 times, I'll probably have a good go at it. But yeah, I just think it comes back to us as coaches, and what are we trying to get out of this practice? What are we trying to get out of this session? And it comes back all the time for me about knowing your individuals, knowing the players, knowing them as people and individuals first before footballers. But all this stuff that we can do to help and empower, I think is essential.
Definitely, very useful.
Rich, it's you.
Mick. Hello, Mick. On the last pod, those who have listened to it, you said around, I won't quote you, I can't remember word for word, but you like your team to be attacking. So I'm just going to throw a scenario your way. You're in charge of a under 14 grassroots team. 3-0 up at half time. Happy with how it's gone. Attacking. The performance has been really well. What would be your message to the team at half time?
We spoke about this yesterday, didn't we? You've changed your question, Rich, haven't you? The answer, because you say it's an under 14 grassroots team, the answer is to still try and allow for the game to be as close as possible. So I'd want those players to face different challenges at that point. And so if that meant taking one of our players off, if it was going to get that one-sided, or allowing for the opposition to put another player on to try and challenge, then that would be what I would do. You'd also want for your team to keep the correct attitude and keep going the same way, you wanted them to start at 0-0 before you knew anything, and to maybe give them some individual challenges that were slightly tougher. So it might be that you know your striker takes too many touches in the box or something like that, and you say, I'd like you to try and score a one-touch finish or something like that. So you're gonna challenge them, make the game ever so slightly harder for your team. But I'd want it to get close. The last thing you want on that day is for you to be 4, 5, 6, 7-0 up.
Yeah, totally. And you said when we spoke before that the answer would be different depending on what kind of level.
I think if you ask academy coaches that, they find it very, very difficult to answer, because in theory they would need to answer in pretty much the same way, because it's still development football. But reality of it is that they probably want to win the game a little bit more. And we spoke yesterday, if it was a tough game, maybe a really, really close game, or in terms of like a local rivalry, that sort of thing, then I think coaches would find that harder at academy football. And obviously the answer is clear and obvious if it's first team senior men's football. Bathroom.
Interesting. Thanks, Mick. What's your opinion? Again, we mentioned this slightly earlier, but just around managing behaviours, but particularly at the foundation age. Yep. And how important it is to get that buy-in from parents to what you'll be doing, say, for that season?
I think parents' buy-in will be helpful. It's never not going to be helpful when the parents are listening to what you're saying and supporting whatever messages you're giving. But managing behaviours is your responsibility as a coach as well. And for me, it just goes down to engagement. Something that's quite close to my heart. I'm a 36-year-old child at heart, really, and ultimately will still lose concentration if things aren't fun and engaging for me. And so I think that you've got your problem child, you've got your child that isn't behaving very well. You probably need to look at yourself and your content first, and if you can do that and try and get to know them as individuals and plan specifically, thinking they're quite busy, they do this, they do that, then that's going to be half the battle for you. If you can keep your sessions fun and engaging, that will, for me, manage behaviours as successfully as you can.
Decent. I always find as well, like, probably a step before, but like the environment. I know it takes us back to the youth model, but how to set in that environment and making sure that is in place. The behaviours would probably follow that because of that environment.
Yeah, again, building a relationship. Nothing to do with football really. Just trying to get to know the kids a bit better, understanding what makes them tick. Go through this a lot on the courses. I think it's really powerful when you say, "Tell me what you think an average primary school kid's day looks like," and ultimately, when you go through it, it's mental, and they might get to you at the end of that. Imagine you've got a Friday night session, and you're saying, "Oh, the kids don't really behave." They've just done, breakfast club, full day of school, after school club, after school club, rush home, have some dinner, get out. Now I need you at football. And then you're saying, can you sit down and listen for 2 minutes? They don't stand a chance, really, do you? So really, really important to keep it engaging. It goes flips right round to the beginning, doesn't it? Games will be better for that than the standing in line and the drill sort of thing.
I think the emphasis has got to be on prevention and support as well. And like you said, we've got to look at ourselves and look inside our own tracksuits. So what should like? Have you got carousels in place so you go from this session to that session to that session? Because that time that it takes you to set up is time that may allow for children to be misbehaving, and then you've got behaviour issues on your hand. So it is things like that, going back to the STEP principle, looking at your coach behaviours, looking at your session management, how to plan the session out, will all help you. And what I mean by that is, you just said, Mick, about, if it's 6th of December and I'm doing a shooting practice and I've got a long line, well, 2 or 3 at the back of that line are going to be old and probably going to be misbehaving. So is it their fault, or is there something within that I could have done? And it's going to be me.
Definitely. It's sometimes a hard question. We have the whole workshop on managing behaviours on a level 2. It's a great workshop, but you will get, the coach that says, "Oh, they're just naughty," and we all know that there are obviously kids that misbehave, and that's fine. But sometimes there's a picture painted when you might see their session delivery, their planning, and you think, well, what a great question to ask coaches is, once you've planned, once you've done the session, would you want to do it yourself? If you turned up to training, and if you turned up to training and that was what you were about to do for an hour, would you like to do it? And if you can't say, yeah, it'd be great, then what are the kids going to think of it?
Brilliant. So moving on, last one is about your courses, Mick, and I think last time we spoke on the podcast, you were sort of in the process of completing your A licence and the Advanced Youth Award. I know the answers to this, but have you finished it?
Yeah, I finished it ages ago, actually. First pod was recorded quite a while ago, actually, wasn't it? I finished it nearly 2 years ago, actually, now. I really enjoyed the A licence. Thought it was a great course. Took a lot away from it. One of the first real eye-openers for me about in-situ visits, because you obviously have that for yourself on that, and it was really useful, really, really good to have that side of it. So yeah, absolutely love the course, to be fair. Would really, really push for people that are wanting to develop and have a bash at the pro game to look at the A licence, that's for sure.
What advice would you give to aspiring coaches that are looking to follow a similar journey to yourself? So we had a sort of debate the other day about the UAFB, for example. I know how difficult it is to get on, and the amount of applications that we have in Bucks and Bucks, but people are happy just to come on and get the content, and that's their ceiling, if you like, and they're happy with that. Other people use it as it is. It's the highest grassroots qualification and the entry route into academies. And obviously the way that you've gone. But what would your advice be if someone wants to follow a similar pathway to yourself?
And go through academy football?
Yeah.
You've got to plug away. You have to work really, really hard. You have to accept the fact that you're not doing it for anything other than progression and your own development and what you can give to the players. You certainly don't get paid very well, even at the highest level. So you have to accept all of that beforehand. But I've been really, really lucky to have had that experience. I did 6, 7, 8 seasons. Can't even remember what it was in academy football. I'm really grateful that I've had that experience. I went into it fairly fresh out of the B license, and as soon as it was a case of planning in such a level of detail, you know, how do you do 90 minutes on turning, for example, that sort of thing. I struggled initially, definitely struggled initially. And then worked all the way through, pretty much done every age group from pre-academy up to an under-16 team. So great experience. You have to really, really plug away at it. If you're ever lucky enough to pay your bills through football, I think you're in a very, very privileged position. But it's a lot of work to get to that point. A lot of hours, a lot of time where, you know, one thing a coach should never do is work out what their hourly rate would be, because it will be awful. So you just have to accept all of those things. But you can get there. It's brilliant when you get there. It's brilliant when you're lucky enough to do the things that we do as well. And give something back to coaching and pass on that experience. But it's a drive and a determination that needs to get you there, because it will be tough and it won't always be productive.
It's a drive and determination that many of the coaches that have logged on tonight have got, because, you know, it's 10 till on a Thursday night, and you know, that's a great attitude, listening to me and Rich waffle on. So well done to everyone listening in.
Leave me in that.